hot in here. Here are 19 reasons to watch the 1984 movie of Firestarter. Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. I'm Dave Musson, at Dave Musson on Instagram, and this is the place where I talk to you about all things Stephen King. And my main focus at the moment is going through the movies and adaptations of King's work in chronological order and giving you 19 reasons to watch all of them. Why not the books, you might ask? Well, I've already spent 2 years going through all of Stephen King's books, so do click around the rest of my channel and you'll find 19 reasons to read each and every one of those published books. But we're going through movies at the moment and we're up to 1984, the second movie from a King work of 1984, and that is Firestarter, based on the 1980 novel of the same name. So we'll get on to 19 reasons to watch Firestarter shortly, but first, a couple of things to plug. Okay, let's do the hard sell first. I wrote the Ultimate Stephen King Quiz book, spent 2 years writing it. There's more than 3,000 trivia questions on every book, every movie, and a load of other stuff. It's really good. You should buy it. If you've already bought it, thank you so much. Maybe leave a review or buy it as a present for somebody else. And look at that cover art from Loudmouth Threads. I mean, that's worth it just alone. It's available on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. Links are in the description. Go pick up a copy. Second, please hit the playlist up there or head over to your favourite podcast provider and check out the podcast Constant Writers, where I talk to indie horror authors about them, their work, and their relationship with Stephen King. Season 1 is there, ready and waiting for you. 6 episodes, 6 great interviews with a bunch of amazing authors for you to go and learn a bit more about, listen to them talk about King, and then go and read their stuff. So go and get involved in that and share it with a friend who might be interested. And if you like indie horror author recommendations, then find the link in the description, sign up to my weekly mailing list. You'll get this in ebook form. It's a collection of short stories by me, just as a thank you for signing up. And in the emails itself, you'll get a short story from me every week, and you'll get an indie horror author recommendation from me every week. It's definitely worth it. It's, yeah, honest, it's good. Okay, let's get into the meat of this video then. We're looking at the adaptation of this book, Firestarter, the first one, 1984 Firestarter movie. So I'm going to give you 19 reasons to watch it, and as I try and do with these videos, I'll let you know when any spoilery reasons are coming. I've clustered them all towards the end, so whether you've watched the movie or not, you can definitely come and watch some of this video. All of the stuff before the spoiler warning will not spoil anything for you, and then you've got a chance to bail if you need to bail. But other than that, I think we're good to go. At the time of recording, this didn't appear to be streaming anywhere, so if you've got it on DVD like I have, then great, you can go and watch that. Otherwise, you can buy and rent it in a few places online, including YouTube, of course. So do seek it out if this video makes you want to go and watch it. But other than that, let's set this one alight. Here are 19 reasons to watch Firestarter. So my headline reason to watch this one is simple. Fire, and lots of fucking fire, and it looks spectacular as well. It certainly delivers on the story's title, and it was all done with practical effects. By all accounts, it was a nightmare to shoot, but everyone stayed safe and the results are extraordinary. It looks amazing. Fire, fire, fire! So originally, John Carpenter was going to direct this, and he had a $20 million big budget extravaganza planned. Then Universal looked at the box office takings for his movie The Thing from 1982 and were a bit worried and decided to ditch Carpenter and brought in Mark E. Lester instead. So it was kind of fitting that when this one got remade in 2022, Carpenter and his son were there to provide the soundtrack. He got his stab at Firestarter in some way in the end. Oh, soundtrack. We have to mention the score on this movie from Tangerine Dream. Fucking sensational, reason alone to watch it. So the rights for this one sold for $1 million, which, you know, is not exactly small change in 1984. And the rights originally went to Dodi Fayed. Yes, he who ultimately and very sadly died in the same car crash that killed Princess Diana. However, those rights eventually found their way to wise old dog Dino De Laurentiis. And, well, not only did he get Universal involved, but he knew exactly who he wanted as his Charlie McGee. Drew Barrymore, of course, bringing us onto the cast. Drew Barrymore completely captivated De Laurentiis with her performance in E.T. He wanted her as Charlie, and he got her as Charlie, and she delivers. She is sensational in this. Top performance.
Please don't make me do anything.
In fact, fun fact for you, Drew Barrymore getting the role of Charlie had kind of already been predicted by Drew Barrymore's own mother. So back when Drew Barrymore was 6, so a couple of years before this movie came out, she was shopping and saw a paperback version of the book, and the girl on the front cover was so strikingly like her daughter that she ended up buying the copy because it was just, wow, that's my Drew on the front cover. And then, well, fast forward a couple of years, and her daughter is actually playing that girl from the book. That's Car. The rest of this cast is pretty damn good too. We get Martin Sheen, not long having seen him in The Dead Zone. He stepped in to take over from an underweather Burt Lancaster and play the head of the shop. He's great. And in her first major film role, we get to enjoy Heather Locklear, at least for a few scenes, as Vicky.
Garth, it's Heather Locklear. And she's signaling to us. There is a God.
Heather be thy name. Swing.
But for me, it's David Keith as Andy McGee who steals the show here. He gets across the fact that Andy is a good, heart-filled dad, and he delivers with an exceptional performance. The only thing I don't like is that when Andy is trying to push people, he has to put his hands over to his head, which makes it quite easy to defend against. I suppose they did it to show what he was doing for the film, but they could have just done an intense stare and different soundtracking, surely. Anyway, that aside, he is terrific. I should also mention George C. Scott as Rainbird. He's pretty good on the whole, but for me, he's nowhere near as terrifying as Rainbird in the book, although that would be pretty fucking difficult. So fun fact about George C. Scott, you'll notice in the film that over the last half an hour, he has an eye patch over his eye, and they kind of spin it in the story that it's to make him less intimidating to Charlie. Actual reason is that, as you'll notice also in the film, he'd been wearing a contact lens for the earlier scenes, and he actually got an infection off that lens and it hadn't healed properly. So they needed to be creative, they put the eye patch on, wove it into the story, and there we go. So lastly, before spoilers, this is generally a pretty faithful adaptation of the book, and I think because of that, it doesn't quite ever really properly ignite, to stick with the fire puns. It has some amazing, explosive moments that are iconic, but there's lots of kind of filler as well, and there are bits that really do drag. So it's absolutely worth a watch, because when it's good, it's really good, but it's perhaps not as bang, bang, bang as it could have been. Okay, I'm about to start talking about how this compares in more detail to the book. I'm going to pick out favourite scenes, favourite lines, Easter eggs, connections, those kind of things. Potential things that might spoil it for you if you've not seen it for the first time. So consider this your spoiler warning. If you need to leave now, please do. Come back soon. Take care. Travel safe. If not, stick around because I've got a bunch more reasons for you to watch Firestarter.
When do I get my money?
So time to talk about how it compares with the book. And as I mentioned in the previous point, it's generally pretty faithful, but there are some things that are taken out, and there's some of the things that I enjoy the most from the book. Namely, all the ricochets and echoes that Andy using his push affects on people's brains. So you might remember if you've read the book, and if you want to see my 19 reasons to read the book, then by all means do. You might remember that when he pushes people, it can kind of set triggers or lay traps in people's brains. So they will start this sort of crazy word tennis with something, and it will lead them to do terrible, drastic things. And I get why it's not in the movie, because it would have been difficult to do, but at the same time, like, it's a real shame, because that was very cool. We also don't get the scene where the Doctor dies by suicide by feeding his own arm into the garbage disposal unit while dressed in his wife's underwear. Can't imagine why they didn't put that in. Also, at the end of this, in the movie, Charlie goes off to sell her story to the New York Times, whereas, of course, in the book, it's Rolling Stone. And, well, I still think Rolling Stone is a better option. Okay, time to talk favourite scenes, and I've got two I want to shout out in this. First of all, the fire and absolute carnage at Irv Manders' farm. Boom! second, though, is the quite visually stunning and amazing scene where the agents of the shop are creeping out of the woodland surrounding Andy and Vicky's lake retreat, and they're all dressed in their fireproof silver suits. They look like aliens coming out of the woods. It's so good, so unnerving, and so wonderfully shot. As for a favourite line, well, I guess Irv's little dig and reference to Russia feels like classic King, particularly as this was a Cold War era film.
Show me a warrant to get the hell off my land.
We don't need a warrant.
You do unless I woke up in Russia this morning.
There aren't many Easter eggs in this one, apart from the shop, which would go on to be a driving force in the 1991 miniseries Golden Years.
Is this experiment being done by the shop?
So quite a few connections in the cast though. Drew Barrymore would go on to star in the next movie that we're going to talk about, Cat's Eye. And of course Martin Sheen had already just been in The Dead Zone. And then of course there's Dino De Laurentiis. So Dino is a producer on this and was a producer on The Dead Zone, and would also go on to be a producer on Cat's Eye, Silver Bullet, Maximum Overdrive, and Sometimes They Come Back. So lastly, at times I find this a bit of a frustrating watch, but ultimately it is worth it, if for nothing else, for those special effects. Those special effects, those practical effects, frankly, when you compare them to the thousands of movies that have spent big budgets on CGI effects in the years since, this movie puts all of those to shame. And at the heart of it, this movie is still a decent thriller. So it's entertaining enough, at least to watch once.
Again! Now!
Okay, there we go, 19 reasons for you to watch Firestarter. If you've seen this one, let me know what you think. Let me know your favourite parts, all of that kind of stuff. And if you want to come and say hi on Instagram, I'm @DaveMusson. You can always chat Firestarter or other King things there. A couple of things to plug. There's the Constant Writers podcast, which I mentioned at the top of the show. Do please give that a listen. It's really, really good. And it's a great chance for you to discover some new indie horror authors. Another way for you to do that is to sign up to my newsletter. You'll get indie horror author recommendations, you'll get short stories from me, and as a thank you for signing up, you get my mini collection, Mirrored plus 10 Tiny Tales of Terror, for free, right in your inbox as an ebook. And lastly, you can pick up a real book from me, the Ultimate Stephen King Quiz Book, available on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. Perfect for hosting your own Stephen King trivia nights, so go and pick up a copy. Next up, it's this month's book special, and it's a ranking, because we haven't done one of those for a while, and I know how much you like them. So I'll see you for that.